Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and the bio section on social media. Also, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. I really appreciate it. Starting out with the bullish list first. Hopefully this week will not be as choppy as last week. Last week was so choppy, and I hate choppy weeks because it's really difficult to buy the breakouts and the breakdowns when the ranges are so tiny, and you have to when you short at the top of the range or you dip buy at the bottom of the range in a narrow range is very, very risky. It's just as risky, if not riskier, of stocks just breaking out and falling apart. That's just I just don't like trading like that, especially in narrow ranges. So, but last week we had to do that. Hopefully this week we'll not have to do that. So with that said, I'll start with the bullish side first. Visa is up there. I know Visa looks kind of extended. It's got a rising wedge on the weekly, but Visa doesn't care. I mean, it's just going to keep going and going and going. I mean, it may dip because it double topped on the daily right here, but worst case, I think that we could end up seeing something like this kind of a move, like a little slight pullback before dropping off, breaking out, or like this, or something like that. So I'm watching it over the high of day on Friday, which is 238.48. It breaks that. It's probably going to go to 240, 245. So I would watch Visa for a breakout amount. Like I said, it could pull back, and if it does, it could pull back to the 232, even 230 level before it makes a run to the new all-time high. So that's what I'm looking at on Visa. Next one is BIDU. Now BIDU, I've kind of have mixed feelings about. I mean, on the hourly, it looks very extended. I mean, on the daily, it's been beaten down. It took off. It's got a gap right here. It probably could fill the gap before doing any higher moves, but yeah, definitely the hourly is overextended. So maybe it could pull back down to 195 before going up. But the thing I'm really looking at is the weekly. It's up against the middle Keltner channel and 202 right here on the daily. So if it does manage to get over this 204 area, it's probably going to go to 210 to even possibly 220. So the weekly's just been beaten down for so long that I think that we could end up seeing a little bit of a pop out of BIDU. I mean, the weekly resistance is like 225, and BIDU is one of those stocks that if it gets any momentum behind it, it could definitely go $20 in a day. So I mean, like this day right here. Well, that's not quite $20. It's like 11, but it has $20 days when it gets strong momentum, like right here. I mean, wow, that's like a $45 day right there. But yeah, it can definitely run $20. I've seen BIDU when it gets momentum behind it go bonkers like ROKU does. So I would definitely watch that to see if it does well. You also got to be careful that if it does manage to get below this 183 area, that it could start to fall apart and go down to the RCT trend line. But I'm only looking at it from the point of view of going up. The bad thing about BIDU is options are usually, the spreads are really nasty and wide. So they may be challenging for options. It could be a commons play. So definitely watch for BIDU on that. Apple is another one. Now Apple is just, I don't know. It's just finding support right here in the 124, 125 area, and it just keeps like, I was looking at the 120, but I didn't. It kind of bounced before it got there, and it's staying right at the RCT trend line. So on the weekly, but the daily, you know, I think that if it gets over 135, it could end up trying to make a run to, let's see, 137, 140. Then you get this 145 level right here. So let's see. Yeah, this 137, 138, 140. And then you get the 145, which is all-time high, and you know it's just making a nice ascending triangle too. You see the line right here, and it's like forcing its way up, even though it had like a false breakout right there on the weekly. But I think that if it does manage to get over this 135 area, that it's gonna try to make a run to the all-time high of 145, even 150. So definitely watch Apple for that. Now cat is one that I think is gonna still keep making a bounce. Now it did finally bounce this past week, and it rejected the middle Keltner channel, which is a 20 EMA on the daily. And it rejected that and pulled back a little bit, but I'm still looking at it that if it does manage to get over the 222, yeah, we can say 221 area, that it could push to 225, 230, and let's see, 225, 230 would be big area on the daily. Then you also have the 233, 234, 235, pretty much almost every whole dollar from 230 up. So this 230 level is going to be pretty rough for cat to break. But also you can see there's like a little bit of a inverted head and shoulders. You get the left, the head, and the possible right here. And if it does manage to break this area, it can make a nice strong run. So cat's another one of those ones that, you know, it gets any momentum behind it, it can have a strong day, just like it does here and here. And when it does break out, it does have strong days. So what was the range on this one? This one's from 225 to 234. So it's the $9 range. I mean, like $9 doesn't seem like much when you compare it to like Roku and Baba and stuff like that, but for cat, $9 days are pretty substantial, and the options can pay really well on that. So DLTR. Now I'm watching Dollar Tree again. I know it pulled back this couple days ago, Thursday and Friday, but I still think it gets over this 102. It's going to fill that gap. Dollar Tree just makes too much money. Things are opening up, I mean, especially here in Canada, and so I think you're going to definitely see Dollar Tree back up to all-time highs. It's just if it pulls back a little more, we'll have to see. But I mean, it definitely, if it doesn't hold this 97 area, it could end up pulling back to this 94. I think it's a buy no matter what. Especially for a long-term hold, it's going to end up bouncing. I mean, Dollar Tree, like I said, just they make too much money. I mean, it's like Walmart. They're always making too much money. So yeah, I would watch it over. You can see even over 100 for this gap right here, but 102 is the area it's been struggling, and if it does manage to break that, it's going to fill the gap. So I'll be watching Dollar Tree, and Dollar Tree can have a strong day too. I mean, look at these candle right here. This is a let's see, 104 to 108. I mean, that's a $4 candle right there. So I mean, $4 is not much, but on Dollar Tree, that's pretty substantial. So this one right over here is a 106 to 113. I mean, that's like almost a $7 candle right there. So this could end up having a significant move. I mean, if it was to move $7, I mean, it could be all the way up. That could fill the gap in a day. So definitely could watch that. Now on the bearish side, now speaking of Roku, it's just been, this thing is just on a tear, and I just think it's overextended. It needs to pull back. I mean, obviously all-time high is 486. Can it get there? Yeah, it could, but it almost filled the gap right here in the daily, in the 440 area. So it's possible tomorrow it could try to pop to 440 and fill the gap before pulling back. I think that we're going to see Roku pull back to the 380s. So timing it is going to be essential and probably tough. And also, there's been so much FOMO. I mean, this is just a ridiculous amount of run. I mean, it went 100 points in a week. That's just insane. And it had that kind of run right here. Then it ended up pulling back a little bit. So right here, it did the same thing. And I'll look at all these bodies of candle these candle bodies are outside the Keltner channel, and it does not like to do that. I mean, when it does that, it likes to come back in like it did right here. So I would watch underneath this 422 area for a push to obviously 404, 400 would be a big psychological number. Now if it breaks 400, you got 385. You look at the daily. You get 390, 385, then you get that 380. The 380 level will be a pretty significant level for Roku, and if it does manage to fall through that, you got the 365 right here. Now Roku, when it falls apart really, really fast. I mean, look at it right here. It went from this 430 area down to 323 in 4 days. 1, 2, 3, 4 days. It went down almost $100. So Roku, it gets any momentum on the selling side, it's gonna dump. So that will be one of my top watches for the week. Now BA. Now I got mixed feelings about BA. BA, you know, it could break out right here, but there's a couple things I'm thinking about here. One is, yeah, if it does manage to get over this 353 area, 352 area, it could probably push to 260, probably even 270. The weekly, it's like stair-stepping. It's pulling back, popping, pulling back, popping. I mean, it's stair-stepping its way up. I mean, could it keep going to the 278? Sure, it could, but I'm looking at a point of view that, you know, a lot of countries are going back into lockdown again. I don't know if the U.S. will. I don't know if traveling is going to be an issue, or if they're going to be traveling restrictions are going to be a problem again. I don't know. I'm just thinking that I saw that a lot of places are going back into a strict lockdown again because of the new Delta variant. So we'll have to see if that plays a role. Also looking at the BA kind of rejecting the RCT trend line on the daily. So just it's one of those things. It's like a 50-50. It's going to depend on the news, anything that comes out that could actually put a damper on traveling or the traveling industry period. That BA could be very susceptible to that news. So I would watch it underneath. I would say let's say 247 to 246, 245. Then you get this 240, 244 area. Then you get let's see, 243, 240. Then you get 236. Then you get this gap support right here at 232, 233, and you get 230 right here. Then you get 220. Now I don't know how far BA will go. BA might not even drop this week. I mean, you also got right here an inverted head and shoulders on the daily on BA. You get the left, the head, and the right. So BA, like I said, it could go either way. It's going to be, I think, heavily dependent on any news events that happens this week, any dampering with the travel restrictions like I've been talking about. But if it does manage to get over this 255 area and get some strength behind it, I mean, BA could pop to 270 plus. So be aware of that. There is a pattern on the daily, but I'm looking at it and thinking about it from the Delta variant COVID possible lockdowns again, and see if that has any issues with the traveling industry. So we'll have to see what happens. BABA is the next one. Now, BABA had a strong day on Friday. Now, normally I would think BABA could take off, but every time BABA gets to the middle Keltner channel on the weekly, it just gets rejected. So plus you get this area right here that's pretty strong, the 240 230 area, and the hourly is just pretty well overextended, so we'll have to watch it for a pullback. I know that BABA could end up, you know, just taking off and going to 240 and 260, so I would definitely watch that possibility of scenario playing out. But we'll have to see if it continues to go down its downtrend right here, rejecting that. Usually it rejects it a couple of times, and it has right there 2 times. So maybe this will be the reversal, but I don't know. I think that SPY could end up pulling back this week, and BABA will probably end up going with it. So we'll have to see. I would watch it underneath the 225 area for a push to 221, then fill the gap to 218, to even go to 216 right here. So the 216 area. Then you get the this area right here, 214, 215. So I would watch that on BABA. Now, like I said, BABA could just end up just taking off and going to 240. So that is a possibility too. So definitely be watching for that. Now, as you can see, that the weekly is having a bullish divergence, but I just don't have much confidence in And Bob, like I said, just every time it gets some momentum behind it, it gets shut down fast. Like right here, gapped up, then it got shut down. It gets a little bit of momentum, it gets shut down. A little bit of momentum, shut down. It just keeps getting, anytime it starts to take off, it just gets crushed. So we'll have to see if that scenario still plays out this week. Disney is one that I keep looking at this weekly Head and Shoulders. I know that it could possibly try to reverse over 180, but I'm just looking at this Head and Shoulders on the weekly, the left, the head, and the right shoulder, and I just keep thinking that this is going to play out sooner or later, and I definitely will be watching for that if it does play out. So yeah, I would watch it underneath 177 for a push to 176, 175, down to 173, 172. If it does break this 172 area, you get the 170, 168. And this is where it's the do or die moment, this 167, 168 area, where it could possibly come down to the 150. So we'll have to see if this weekly Head and Shoulders plays out, because usually these weekly patterns, they actually do play out. It's just a matter of when. So it could be this week, it could be a couple weeks, I don't know. So just be aware that it is there and it could possibly play out. Now SPY looks like ROKU on the hourly, just straight up. I mean, 414 to 226, it went up $12 and in a few days. So I just think that you get this massive rising wedge. It's going to pull back. So I would watch it underneath 425 for a push to 424, 422. Then you get this 421, 420. Now, the thing with SPY is if it doesn't have a reason to go down, if something doesn't happen, it's probably going to slowly just keep having choppy days, gapping up. That's what's been happening with SPY. Is it gets to these levels, and can't really break out, gets rejected, so they gap it up overnight where it can be easily manipulated, then it chops the next day, and then they gap it up, chop. So we could end up seeing that scenario keep happening until something scares the market into freaking out. So without a catalyst, I don't think the market's going to pull back. I mean, it could keep going up, but I mean, the 1 hour rising wedge is a little bit concerning. VIX is getting very, very low. If it can ever load. I mean, VIX is getting really, really low. It's down. It went underneath, almost under 14. 14.19 was the low. I mean, almost went under 14. So VIX acts like a coiled spring. The more pressure you put on it, the more it wants to violently bounce. So if it does get under 14, I mean, I think the SPY is going to end up pulling back sometime this week or maybe next week. What the catalyst will be, I have no idea, because it just it's going to have to be something. It's either going to be the lockdowns coming back again, or inflation, or some kind of economic numbers that come out that scares the market. And right now the market seems to be immune to everything and anything, and it only cares what it wants to, and it will pick the narrative that it cares about, and it will end up dropping. Now the question is, how much will it drop, and what the news will be, and when it will be. Who knows? But that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for possibly probably kind of like this kind of a move. I'm not looking for a market crash. I'm not like these other people on social media that thinks the market's going to crash. I don't think the market's going to crash. Even if it does drop, I mean, I don't even think it'll get underneath 400. I think that the Fed's been trying to save the market so much. So anything that gets any selling pressure or selling momentum is going to easily get recovered or saved by the Fed or something like that. So I'm only looking for a small pullback to like 420, even 415, maybe even 410. But VIX is getting geared up for a move. So we'll just have to wait to see if any news comes up. But like I said, without a catalyst, it's just going to keep making these kind of moves up, just gap and chop, gap and chop. And I hate that. The market needs to do something. VIX is getting destroyed. So that is the plan for the week. Now the gap ups and the news and the gap downs changed the thesis of the plays. That's why I needed to be in the room in the morning, and I put out my little trade ideas, what levels to watch, what tickers to watch, and stuff like that. So that's going to do it for the watch list. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the room.